Hope that you're all surviving the crypto winter. It is actual winter down here where I am in Australia. It is absolutely freezing and raining a lot, but we're here to have a new video. This one's part of a two-part series, a DeFi debrief for the month of May. In part one, we'll be focusing on the NEAR ecosystem, namely, we're going to run through all the main platforms, their feature releases, some of the interesting trends that we noticed, and some opportunities that you may want to consider. There will be a part two focusing on Aurora. As always, remember that this channel is just for entertainment and educational purposes. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. I've been personally wrecked, so certainly not in a position to be giving advice to anyone. Always do your own research, especially if you're watching videos about crypto on YouTube. Don't know what that says about me. So let's get started. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. In the month of May, there was a very hyped and huge and exciting announcement. NEAR launched USN. What is USN, you may be asking? Well, USN is a NEAR native stablecoin. It is issued by the central bank, and there could not have been a worse time to launch a stablecoin because, as you've probably heard, if you've been around the crypto or DeFi space, the month of May also saw the collapse of UST and Luna as a protocol. There was tens of billions of value wiped out, all the way from institutional investors like Binance to Jump Capital, all the way to little fish like you and I. So a lot of people are asking what the differences are between USN and UST. I'll be making a video specifically about this later on. However, I just want to clarify that USN and UST are very different. So let's first focus on the very flawed and extremely poorly designed mechanism that UST implemented. Under the UST model, you could issue UST by burning Luna. Namely, you would deposit it and it would somehow vanish. Now, at this point, when the market is going up, this is what we call Ponzinomics, by the way, people got really excited because the thinking was, well, UST adoption is going up and you have to burn Luna to issue UST. So I guess that at some point, Luna is basically going to vanish. There's not going to be enough Luna to mint all these UST. However, there was a catch. There was a big problem. There was nothing backing UST. And in the same way that the protocol burned Luna on the way in, it had the ability to print an unlimited amount of Luna to back UST. So you can probably see how printing money out of thin air to back an asset that has no backing is probably a very bad idea. Don't want to get into the conspiracy theories, not enough time to get into the details. Long story short, it seems like some very powerful actors were able to trigger what is known as a death spiral, namely, sold enough to depeg the coin, and once it was depegged, it triggered the Luna Foundation to start selling Luna to back up the UST, and the whole thing went to zero, literally zero. So you may be wondering, shit, that sounds pretty bad. I don't want to touch USN. You'd be wrong, sir. So there's one major difference in which USN is different. The first one is that USN is actually backed by something. So USN is collateralized by both NEAR and USDT. Second, USN is over-collateralized. So for every one USN in circulation, there is, I guess, double the NEAR and USDT, a mix of both. That alone introduces a very simple mechanism of accountability. You know, anyone that has ever done maths can figure out first in, first out how much USN is in circulation, how much is there in the reserve. So we'll jump into the specifics of the mechanics because there is a super interesting algorithmic arbitrage mechanism that we'll dive into on the USN specific video. But all I want to say is that USN is a very different coin from UST. However, I guess the UST gave us a flavor for how big the market could be for this type of algorithmic stablecoins. So the trend is algorithmic stablecoins are questionable. We have a big role to play as the NEAR community to try to educate and communicate how USN is different, and the opportunity is there are big incentives for the adoption and dissemination of USN. really before we jump to the next point, how to get USN. USN, you can get USN directly from the Decentral Bank website. I'll have the link on the section below. This is a zero slippage way to swap any amount of NEAR for USN and backwards. There's another way of getting it on the Sender wallet. We've made a video on them as well, and I'll include the link on the description section below. And you can also swap USN on DeFi. Now, I mentioned that there are some very juicy USN incentives, which takes us to our next platform, Burrow Cash. What is Burrow Cash? Burrow Cash is the first and only, so far, money market on the NEAR protocol. Here you're able to deposit assets and borrow money. So some of the features that Burrow Cash has implemented during the month of May has been expanding the range of assets available, both to deposit and borrow. They've also introduced staking. Staking of the BRRR token is super interesting. So up until now, all the users of Burrow Cash have been able to earn the exchange native token, namely BRRR, extra points if you can pronounce it in your native language. However, BRRR token, it's not yet tradable. So the staking introduces two really cool elements. The first one is the ability to earn extra yield. So you can see how you can lock your BRRR for up to 12 months. And the longer that you lock the BRRR for, you will get extra booster multipliers. These get pretty juicy, actually. So kudos to the Burrow team. I think that as far as the tokenomics go, it is actually really smart to introduce a staking mechanism and to lock as much BRRR as possible so it is out of circulation. Now, the extra feature is the USN rewards. So as mentioned before, USN is going out with a bang. There are some pretty generous rewards for you to dip your toes. So as you can see on the rewards column, if we hover over the assets, you can see the different assets being distributed. Currently, there are BRRR tokens for all the assets. And then as you go down, you'll see that there is USN for all the 3 stable coins. NEAR has extra NEAR rewards. stNEAR also have extra NEAR rewards. BTC and ETH have BTC and ETH rewards. And off it goes. And now to the opportunities, not financial advice. So I'd say tier 1 low risk opportunity would be to simply deposit your assets on Burrow Cash. I know that with the current levels of inflation, perhaps 6.86% on your DAI is not much, but given the current bloodbath in the market, the stablecoin play could be a good one. USN is up to 9.71%, which is pretty good. And remember, you get the BRRR tokens, which don't have a price yet. So the APY here doesn't actually include the BRRR rewards, which could be much, much higher. Now, the trend and the opportunity for Burrow Cash is what they call folding. Folding is when you deposit an asset and you borrow potentially the same asset. That one, I'd say it's like a tier 2 risk in the sense that what you want to maximize for is the amount of rewards that you receive from the platform while minimizing the chance of getting liquidated. So I'll give you an example. So I could deposit DAI and earn 6.86% and then borrow, say, Tethered at 3.49% and then swap that for USN and get 9.71%. I believe that at this stage, the percentages of the deposits and the withdrawals add out. But remember that when people do this, what they want to do is maximize their BRRR tokens or any extra rewards there. Now, people can get really crafty with this, and some of the things that I'd be looking out if you really want to maximize the folding and your strategy is hover over the balances and look at how many BRRR tokens are allocated for each one of these coins. And then, actually here in the corner, let's display the full amounts. And then what you can look out for is compare the total amount of deposits for each coin. And over here, the column that says liquidity, that is how much is available for you to borrow in that asset. So the ratio or the correlation that you're looking for is an asset that has a lot of deposits and a lot of liquidity. What does it mean? I'll tell you. If you go to the borrow section, you'll see that stNEAR, for instance, has 33.333333 thousand per day, but it has very, very, very little utilization ratio on the borrow column. So I may or may not be borrowing stNEAR simply because you get like many, many, many more BRRRR tokens than if you borrow the same amount on USDT. So once again, be super careful on how you play with the combination of your collateral and your rewards. What I would advise is whichever asset you borrow, don't actually deploy elsewhere. Definitely do not sell it. Always keep it, keep it safe. Keep your cards close to your body so that you can always just pay it back if the markets start turning or if there is a need to do it. As always, magic money Legos, there are many, many different ways of combining this. If you're interested, if you think of a funky combination or you'd like to have a discussion about some potential techniques, make sure that you jump on the comment section below or join the Misfits Discord. Now we have a special channel for alpha leaks with AVB, and I'll be spending more time there discussing with the people. Now that we're all broke, we need to find a way to make our money back. Moving on to Ref Finance. And a quick disclaimer that I am a Ref bestie, or I sit on the Ref Finance community board. So what is Ref Finance? Ref Finance is the blue chip AMM or decentralized exchange on Near Native. There are a couple of really exciting features for Ref Finance in the month of May. Let's start with the expansion of the stable pool pairs. The stable pool pairs are really interesting because basically it changes the algorithm, the way in which the pool calculates the price correlation between the two assets because both have the same value, even if they are out of whack in the pool. So in a traditional pool, for instance, USDC and NEAR, if you have a lot of people depositing USDC and getting NEAR out, the price of NEAR goes up. However, on a stable pool, we want to make sure that people are able to swap in between any of these assets at roughly the same price because one tether should be around the same as one DAI. So it's a really good way to increase capital efficiency and fluidity. The initial offering was a USDT USDC DAI pool, and during the month of May, there's been 3 new pools added. So there is a USN UST pool that we can see has a ton of liquidity. That's over $120 million. There is also a USN CUSDT pool, which CUSDT is an algorithmic stablecoin from the Cello ecosystem. At NEAR, we believe in a multi-chain world, and we've got a bit of a special relationship going on with the Cello community. And most excitingly, there is also a new WBTC HBTC stable swap. HBTC is the Huobi BTC. So that also signals a very special relationship with the Huobi community. The second exciting feature that Ref Finance released during the month of May is liquidity aggregation. So now if you go to the swap section, you'll be able to see this funky little toggle at the top, which signals NEAR and Aurora. So this liquidity aggregation means that with one simple switch now from Ref without having to leave the interface, you can now perform trades that are actually executing on Solaris. So before, users would have to send assets over the Rainbow Bridge and then perform the swap on Solaris and presumably send the assets back down the Rainbow Bridge. I really like this because to me, it shows the power of composability, and it really starts to highlight some of the benefits of having Aurora as an EVM, which I argue is one of the best EVM scaling solutions out there as a smart contract on top of NEAR, because the two smart contracts can talk. Now, users from Ref can trade any of the assets on Solaris, which is pretty cool. That really deepens the liquidity to hundreds of millions. So moving on to some of the trends on Ref Finance. And for these, I'd like to give a massive shout out to Stats.ref.finance. This is an amazing analytics tool that it really enables you to geek out and jump into some of the nitty-gritty information that is not available on the main Ref exchange because we want to keep it simple for most users. But also, I don't think I've seen this for any other exchanges. Here you're able to filter the top tokens by volume or by TVL, and where things start getting really interesting for me is the information for the pools. So at a glance, you can look at the top pools by TVL or volume. But what I'd like to draw your attention to is here on the fee section, I want you to pay attention to the 24-hour fee. This is a dollar amount, and the APR. And the reason why this is important is because there are the pools where anyone can create a pool and anyone can add liquidity to a pool. And then there are farms where you get extra rewards for being part of that pool. Like we incentivize people to join the pool. However, most people don't really have much visibility into the utilization of those pools when they join a farm, namely how much volume is actually being transacted and how much fees are being collected. Because there are some farms that may have very high rewards, but they have very little volume. And conversely, there may be some pools or some farms that have very little rewards, but have much higher fees. So for instance, look at the USDT wrap near. If you go to ref, USDT wrap near is only paid 28.28%, which some people may think it's super low. You can definitely do better than that in the farming world. However, when you go to Stats.ref.finance, you realize that the volume on this pool is super high, and it is ranking mad fees. This trend is similar with the USDC wrap near pair. It has insane volume, and it is also killing it with fees. One thing to take into account is obviously this is a 24-hour fee period. However, the trend for the month of May is a lot of volume on the stable pairs. I don't know if this is people getting liquidated, if this is people panicking and selling their bags, if this is people thinking we hit the bottom and buying back in. But the volume on the stable pairs has been through the roof, and the fees are so juicy. I will leave the link so you can come and have a scroll to see how the pools that you're participating in compare. And for this, I'd like to draw your attention, for instance, to the USN pairs. So the only two incentivized USN pools are the stable pools, and we can see that they've got a lot of volume. However, stable swaps have very low fees, 0.05 compared to the traditional 0.3. However, look at these pools from the third down. These are all pools created by the community. And check this out, wrap near USN, whoever was the greedy person that created this one, they set the pool fee to 0.7%, and they're clearing a whopping 26%. I guess that's not that surprising considering how much it's been cleared from the USDT, USDC example, but this is a really good example of an alpha of a pool that you can join. It doesn't have to be incentivized. It's only $15,000 in that pool. If we keep scrolling down, basically you'll see that all the USN pairs are doing really well. Even the ones with like tokens that you wouldn't expect to have much volume. Look at PEM USN, 5%, PXT, 6%, REF USN. This pool honestly should be bigger. I may or may not have created that one myself. We're sitting at 6.88%, and off it goes. So just to recap some of the opportunities, naturally always come to the farming section of Ref Finance and see what is up. The only comment that I'll make on this one is that the current percentages are based on the price of Ref, which has taken a big hit like most of the market. As the price recovers along with the market, we can expect these percentages to go up. So now would be a really good time to accumulate. Second, as I mentioned, it's always good to have a bit of a browse on the Stats.ref.finance place and see what pools are moving, what coins are moving, and see which pools may be worth joining, even if there's not an incentivized farm. Moving on to MetaShield. So MetaYield is the first and leading liquid staking solution. You're able to stake your NEAR earning 9.74% and then use stNEAR across the ecosystem. Metapool had a really cool feature, or I guess product release during the month of May, and that is MetaYield. MetaYield is a new community crowdfunding platform where you're able to support projects simply by depositing your stNEAR. The staking rewards go to the project and you keep your original NEAR. So we can see that the first project to launch was Pembroke Finance. They have successfully reached their second goal, and there's only 3 hours left to fund them. So sadly, by the time you see this video, you probably missed out. But fear not, there will be more fundraising campaigns through MetaYield. Now, the trend that I want to highlight with Metapool, which actually links up with the opportunity, is around arbitrage. A quick reminder that when you stake with Metapool, there's actually two ways to unstake. The first one, which is the main selling point of Metapool, is to do what is known as liquid unstaking. Namely, you pay a small fee, usually around 0.3%, and you receive your NEAR immediately. However, there is also an option to do delayed on-stake. Through delayed on-stake, this is really just a standard on-staking process of the NEAR protocol. It can take up to 72 hours and you don't have to pay any fee. So if you're not in a rush, you can always do the traditional on-staking and then receive your NEAR plus your rewards. I actually have an amount pending here to be withdrawn. The third way would be to use an exchange such as BRRR.finance and simply swap your stNEAR for NEAR. Now, to understand what the arbitrage opportunity is, we have to understand that stNEAR has an objective price. Namely, that objective price can always be checked on the main Metapool dashboard. At the moment, one stNEAR is 1.08 NEAR. Now, why is it an objective price? This is the exchange rate at which you can swap stNEAR from the Metapool smart contract directly. That price is the exact correlation between all the stNEAR in circulation and all the NEAR on the smart contract, which can be redeemed either paying a small fee through liquid unstaking or through delayed on-stake by waiting 72 hours. Like, that price is guaranteed minus the liquid on-staking fee or after 72 hours. The major trend that we noticed that creates some really interesting arbitrage opportunities is that there were moments of panic or despair where people really, really wanted to have their NEAR back, like right now, or alternatively, there were a lot of liquidations where the trading volume of the stNEAR pair on BRRR.finance was very high. And this created a price discrepancy. Namely, stNEAR here, instead of being 1.08, I think it was like 1.05 at some point, or 06. And likewise, on Metapool, the amount of liquidity available in the pool got pretty low. I think at some point it was around 3,000 NEAR, which meant that the current on-staking fee was 1% or may have even been more. And the APY got to like 100%. So with such a high APY, you can see how the pool was very quickly replenished. The key takeaway here is there are always arbitrage opportunities, and I think that the stNEAR wrap NEAR pair presents that opportunity. So if you're looking at staking with Metapool or buying stNEAR, it's always worth checking to see what the price is at the contract level and what the price is on ref. You may be getting a better deal on ref and help balance that pool. And likewise, if you are on staking, always worth checking this exchange rate to see where you get a better deal. So I guess that the opportunity would be to keep an eye on the arbitrage if that is your thing, and also to consider the liquidity pool as a place to park your NEAR. An important aspect to take into account here is that the APY here is based on the 3-day average. The feedback has already been taken, and this should be changed soon to expand the range of time that is used to calculate the APY. Because, as I mentioned, the nature of the pool is that it can be very quiet for a while, so the APY displayed is very low. People start shifting their capital to where they think they can get higher APY, and then it can get very busy over a period of 2 or 3 days where all the fees are made, and then the APY is super high. So I believe that a longer time frame would be much better, much more representative of the real potential of the pool, and this is something to take into account. Now, just to start wrapping up, a major trend for the month of May has also been the introduction of the full on-chain order books. So we made our last video on Speed Finance, so I'm going to very quickly gloss over this one. Go check that video if you're interested. And I'll also mention that Tonic Finance is also on mainnet now. They recently had sorry, I'm moving the camera around. Hopefully you're not getting dizzy. They had a testnet competition recently, and this is one to keep an eye out. And to close it off, I want to have a special mention to Dolphins Alert. Dolphins Alert is a brand new Twitter account, only 31 followers. Go give them some love. The Dolphins alert reports on big transactions in the NEAR protocol, and they are run by Pikespeak. Pikespeak is an amazing new data and analytics tool from the NEAR protocol. They are, unsurprisingly, my friends and heroes from the Stats.ref.finance portal, which we were talking about just before. And if you're interested, Pikespeak is currently not available. You can drop in your email so they can notify you when to join, or if you message me, we can add you to the super user group. Hopefully I'll be able to pull my strings on that one. The final shout out for the month of May would be for Nearblocks. Nearblocks is a block explorer on the Near blockchain. In general, I think it's just a better explorer. I feel like the information, it's more easily available. It's easier to see and read. However, the key feature that I would like to highlight is that now on Nearblocks, you are able to download all your transaction as CSV export. The trend here is tax time. So you can take your CSV export to one of the many crypto accounting software and then hopefully avoid going to prison. I know that this year none of us will have any profit to report anyway, but I feel like this is a super, super cool feature, and I hope more people make use of it. Shout out to the friends at Nearblocks. Friends, as always, it is impossible to cover everything with this video. If you find it useful, make sure that you share with a friend, subscribe. I'll try making more videos, so hopefully they will be shorter but more frequent. And if you enjoy listening to me talk for many, many hours, I have a podcast. Go check out the Wild User Interviews podcast, available on iTunes, Google, Spotify, YouTube. We are behind a few episodes, but I'm also slowly uploading the videos. Friends, you are the best. Thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you soon.